On today's show, the Rockets get a much-needed bounce-back win on national TV against the Lakers on Christmas Day. Kevin Durant and Ime Thompson out-dueling Luka, Doncic, and LeBron James. The Rockets defense returning to form with the insertion of Tari Eason into the starting lineup. Dorian Finney-Smith makes his debut and more. All coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the #1 sports podcast network. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets. On today's show, I'm going to be breaking down the Rockets' 119-96 wire-to-wire blowout win against Luka, LeBron, and the Lakers on Christmas Day. Kevin Durant and Ime Thompson leading the way with 25 and 26 points apiece in this one. The Rockets' defense returning to form with the insertion of Tari Eason to the starting five, hopefully a permanent addition. We'll hear more on that from Tari Eason himself in a little bit, as well as the debut of one Dorian Finney-Smith. A lot to get to from this game. First, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being an everydayer. I apologize, first and foremost, for being so behind on this episode. I've been under the weather, and with the holidays and all sorts of other stuff going on, it hasn't been great. But I wanted to make sure we got a chance to get this one out before the Rockets-Cavs game happens. And so if you're a real sicko, I expect you to come back and listen to this one and the Cavs recap. Help a guy out, right? But with that, let's get into and so I apologize. You might have to deal with me sniffling and coughing my way through this one, but we'll see. I'll try to keep it to a minimum. 119-96 Rockets win, a wire-to-wire victory against the Lakers. A nice little get-right win for this Rockets team. And we'll talk about KD and LeBron and Luka and Ime and kind of the stars going back and forth in this one later on. To me, this game, the most important storyline from this game was the Rockets defense and them getting right defensively, or getting back to right defensively, like getting like improving on that side of the ball. They held the Lakers to their second lowest scoring total of the season, just 96 points for the Lakers. Their previous low was 95. And realistically, I mean, this game was over, right? Garbage time players came in when the Lakers only had 89 points on the board. So, and look, it's worth noting, Austin Reeves didn't play the second half in this game. He's injured. So like, there's that to consider. Sure. But I mean, so Lakers were not 100% healthy. I give them that. But you play who's in front of you, right? And this Rockets team, from the jump of this game, felt so much more motivated and intentional with their defense. They were hustling. They were making extra efforts. They were rotating well. Like, this team felt night and day different to how this team was playing defense against the Lakers than to how they were playing defense at times against the Clippers and the Kings and the Pelicans and some of these really bad losses that they've had in recent memory. And I'm going to credit a huge portion of that motivation, right, to the starting lineup change that Ime Udoka made, inserting Tari Eason to the starting five over Josh Okogie. And look, Josh Okogie has been awesome for this Rockets team, right? He has been, stepped into a very big role, a much bigger role than anybody anticipated, probably even himself, having for this team this Rockets year, with the, loss of Fred VanVleet and then the injuries to Tari and DFS. But ultimately, Josh is going to be better served as like that energy, kind of like come off the bench for 10, 15, 20 minutes a night, be that disruptive kind of pesky defender off the bench. Because unfortunately, he has some shortcomings in his game, right? Tari Eason, you get a more true blue, like 3-and-D caliber wing, a guy with some size, some rebounding ability, another really elite point of attack defensive piece for the Rockets, taking some pressure off of Ime Thompson defensively, because now it's not only Ime Thompson is the one true lockdown defender that the Rockets have on the perimeter. And he causes so much chaos when he's on the floor. And it really felt like the Rockets were kind of feasting off of that energy that he was playing with, right? That was maybe the most important thing to me about the addition of Tari Eason is Ime had talked about, motivating the guys and the energy not being right and not or getting outworked by opposing teams. And Tari Eason, I don't know if he's ever been outworked a day in his life when he's on the basketball floor, right? That dude goes out there with his hard hat and lunch pail and does the dirty work every single second that he's on the floor. There was a possession where Lakers were trying to inbound the ball after I think it was like a tip out or something because it was a side out play. And Tari just straight up bullied Luka on the inbound, stole the ball, and then dunked it home on the Lakers rim. Those are the kinds of things that he does. He had 4 steals and 2 blocks in this game. The Rockets forced 16 Lakers turnovers, and Tari accounted for a huge chunk of those. Just his energy, it was infectious. He was everywhere in this game. And the Rockets, again, just thriving off that energy. They forced the Lakers into 16 turnovers. They scored 23 points off those 16 turnovers. And there's something like the dynamic between Tari and Ime Thompson, right? The Terror Twins in full effect in this game. They really feed off of each other's energy. And it really felt like the Rockets had that defensive edge that had been missing for quite some time with this squad. Let's hear what Tari Eason had to say actually after this big win against the Lakers on Christmas Day.
Blessing, man. Ime finally trusted me to go out there at home, and I just had to, do what I do best. We had to get back to kind of being dogs defensively, and I knew I would come out there and set the tone.
Do you want to start? Is that something you value?
Yes, I do.
What was it like just being as close to healthy as y'all been all season with you and Dorian out there together?
Man, it's amazing. Dorian's my guy. We've had a lot of talks this whole offseason just about, our anticipation to play with each other. So I'm excited to play with him.
What's the benefit for you when you do start?
When I do start, just setting the tone, being able to go out there and set the tone and, have the feel of the game kind of early on and just help set the tone for my team.
It certainly felt like Tari Eason did set the tone for the Rockets defensively in this one, taking some of that pressure off of Ime Thompson again, because you had possessions where Tari was the one checking Luka or LeBron or Reeves or whoever, instead of, so much of that defensive responsibility falling on the shoulders of Ime Thompson. And look, Tari spoke in the offseason. He spoke at Media Day about wanting a bigger role with the team this season. And in light of the, the inability to reach, terms on a contract extension, that was kind of is Tari going to be out for himself this year? Like, what's that going to look like? Tari feels like right now, probably the best bet for the Rockets' 5th starter to get the defense back to where it needs to be, and provide another dynamic or just a guy that can play his role offensively, right? He's not going to be Reed Sheppard. He's not going to be initiating offense and running sets through him and that kind of stuff. But at least to start these games, Josh Okogie gave the Rockets a little bit of that defensive edge. Tari Eason is like a whole nother tier above that, right? As far as his impact on the game, with his point of attack defense, his rebounding, his hustle, the chaos that he brings, both good and bad, right? If there was one knock on that I had on Tari for this game, it'd be that he was in foul trouble quite a bit. He picked up 3 fouls in the second quarter. He picked up his 4th foul, a very silly one, 92 feet away from the basket in the third quarter. And that's going to be something he has to work on, especially if he's going to continue to be the starter for this Rockets team. Hopefully Ime Udoka keeps trusting him and gives him more opportunities as the starter. And surprisingly, this wasn't even a phenomenal game by Tari's usual standards, because he only shot 1 for 5 from downtown. And given how hot he's been shooting the ball from 3, I expect that number to get back to form instead of 20% from 3. So strong game for Tari Eason, helped give the Rockets defense a much needed facelift and kind of revitalizing them a little bit on that end. And we'll see if that's a continuing trend in their upcoming game against the Cavaliers on Saturday night. Do you think Tari Eason should continue starting for the Houston Rockets? Give me your thoughts in the YouTube comments. Coming up, we'll talk about Kevin Durant and Ime Thompson out-dueling Luka Doncic and LeBron James, as well as the debut of one Dorian Finney-Smith and more. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Today's episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. The season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely immaculate. Because look, there are nights when your team just stresses you out. Thankfully, Christmas Day was not one of them for the Rockets. But if you need to, let DoorDash become your post-game therapy session. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season, delivered right to your doorstep. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Talked about, Tari Eason kind of setting the tone early in this game, but it really felt like the Rockets took this game seriously, right? Like, again, wire-to-wire victory is no small feat, right? That's not a super easy thing to do in the NBA, especially against another good team, which the Lakers are a good team. They've got their warts, they've got their flaws, but they are a good team. Rockets jumped out to a 37-25 lead after one and never really looked back, right? And you got big contributions across the board in that first quarter, really setting the tone early. Tari Eason had 7 of his points in that first quarter, was 3 of 4 shooting there. Reed Sheppard came off the bench with a quick 5 points. Ime Thompson had 9 super quick points in that first quarter. We'll talk about him and his ability to get downhill against a relatively unathletic Lakers squad here in just a moment. But Kevin Durant, strong game, 25 points, 8 of 14 shooting, 4 of 6 from downtown, a perfect 5 of 5 at the charity stripe, had 4 rebounds, 8 assists, another 8+ assist performance from KD. Just continues to be the playmaker that this Rockets team does need him to be on a night-to-night basis. Had a steal, had a couple blocks in there, only 3 turnovers. You live with that, right? And funny enough, Kevin Durant actually missed the first 4 shots that he took of this game. Missed his first 4 shots, proceeded to hit the next 6 in a row and went into halftime shooting 6 of 10. He finished the game 8 of 14 overall shooting, which is just like the most like KD-esque stat line ever, right? You start 0-4 and then you finish 8 of 14. That's kind of absurd. That means he was 80% shooting from the floor over his next 10 shots. That's very KD-esque, but Lakers really had no answer for him defensively. Liked his patience, how deliberate he was, kind of picking apart the Lakers defense, really picking and choosing his spots carefully in the flow of the game and making sure to involve his teammates. And then Ime Thompson, man. Ime Thompson was fantastic in this game. We're continuing to see games where Ime Thompson, it plays with confidence and gets downhill. And when he realizes that there's nobody on the opposing team that can actually guard him, which, to be fair, there are some players that can stick with him in a little bit, but there is not a single player on that Lakers roster that can actually hold Ime Thompson. 26 points, 12 of 19 shooting, missed his only 2 3 attempts. Was 2 of 3 at the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, had a steal mixed in there, only a couple turnovers. Really strong performance from him. And we're starting to see Ime Thompson string together some pretty strong performances here and there. And for me, I think one of the things that stood out is, again, talked a little bit about this in segment 1. He looked a little bit more fresh throughout the game because he wasn't shouldering such an immense responsibility on defense. It didn't have to be Ime chasing Luka and LeBron and Reeves every single possession, right? He had some backup with Tari Eason and a little bit for, DFS out there, right, in his debut. But it was also just the overall minutes total for Ime. He only played 32 minutes in this game. And Ime, the way that he plays, his play style, he's so intense when he is out there on the floor that for him to have the same level of effectiveness defensively that we saw, really just on both sides of the floor, but especially on the defense. Ime might have to be a little bit more cognizant of how much he's using Ime Thompson, right? Giving him maybe a different substitution pattern, more rest here or there. Because if you get 32 minutes of Ime Thompson, he's playing like top tier, all NBA first team defense type defense. That was repetitive. If he's playing like that and he's acting like an all NBA caliber defender at 32, 33 minutes played, but if there's a significant drop off when you start getting up to 36, 37, 38, 39 minutes played, then you're going to have to find ways to wean the minutes down a little bit. And that's why getting the reinforcements of Tari Eason and DFS back are going to be so huge, because it's going to allow the Rockets to rely on their depth, the depth that should have been an advantage for this team from game one of this long 82-game season. And the Rockets really haven't been able to rely on that depth, unfortunately. They've had to go deep into their pockets for like some of the third stringers, right? And you've had guys like Josh Okogie and Aaron Holiday playing, and Jayshawn Tate playing like actual rotation minutes. These are supposed to be your kind of insurance policy guys at the end of the bench, right? Step up in case of an injury. And the Rockets haven't been healthy, so they've had a lot of injuries, and they've had a lot of those games where you've needed to go a little bit further into the rotation to be able to satisfy your minutes threshold. I don't know. I think that for Ime Thompson, keeping him fresh is going to seriously pay some dividends for this Rockets team on both sides of the floor, but just really liked how aggressive he was getting downhill against a Lakers squad that really didn't have an answer for him. Like, there's not a single athlete that can keep up with Ime Thompson on the Lakers, and he made sure they knew that, right? He got downhill, had some great finishes around the rim, some great touch on a couple. He had that one drive that he flipped up and it went like high off the glass. Like, I don't know. It was, he had some really strong finishes in this game. Really liked what we saw out of Ime Thompson in this one. And the Rockets as a team, they flat out crushed the Lakers in pretty much every statistical category. One other thing that stood out about the defense is they didn't foul a ton. They only sent the Lakers to the free throw line 11 times. This Rockets team has been one of the better teams in the association this season about not fouling opposing teams, not sending them to the free throw line. And so that is a win right there. But then also flat out crushing them on the glass, in totality, crushing them on the glass. 48-25 rebounding advantages, a plus 23 on the boards for the Rockets, plus 10 in the offensive rebounding category, 17-10 overall, to the tune of 24 second chance points, to 24-10 advantage in second chance points for the Rockets, plus 14 there. They were plus 5 in the fast break battles, 16-11, and then they dominated in the paint, 68-52. So even though the Lakers actually had kind of a decent shooting night from three, they were 11 of 30 from downtown. They shot 51% overall. They only took 77 shots compared to the Rockets taking 90 shots in this game. Rockets just got more bites at it. And then the Rockets were at the free throw line a bit more. They were plus 4 there. And then those Lakers turnovers really killed them. Even though the Rockets also turned the ball over 15 times, Lakers were not anywhere near as good about taking advantage of those turnovers. They only scored 11 points off of the Rockets turnovers. Meanwhile, Rockets scored 23 points off of the 16 Lakers turnovers. So this really felt like across the board a good defensive win. They didn't let the role players get going for LA. Rui Hachimura just 0 of 6 shooting. DeAndre Ayton was 5 of 6, but only 6 shots. Didn't really have opportunities to keep going, I guess, offensively. Marcus Smart 3 for 8. Maxi Kleber 1 for 4. Like, it was just not a great overall game for the Lakers. And maybe because, again, no Austin Reeves, they were a little short offensively. Luka was in hell being guarded by the Rockets wings. They just didn't have the firepower to keep up. And credit to the Rockets defense. They made things so difficult for the Lakers throughout this game, and they just bludgeoned them on the glass. Like, you could tell, like, the players, the fans in the stands, they were getting upset with some of the calls on the offensive rebounds for Steven Adams and Alperen Sengun and Ime Thompson. And it's like, well, just, box out maybe, and then you won't give up these offensive rebounds. So a great, strong defensive performance from the Rockets. And it was really cool watching Kevin Durant and LeBron James going toe-to-toe on Christmas Day. Even though, both these guys are getting up there in age, it's still fun watching Christmas Day basketball between two of the legends of the game. And there were points where I thought Luka was going to start heating up, or maybe he would sink a 3 and I'd be like, oh, of course that went in. And it just kind of didn't matter. The Rockets came out, they stormed the third quarter, won that frame 29-21. And, there was never really a point where it felt like the Lakers were making like a legitimate push to take control of this game. Again, the Rockets were pretty comfortably in charge for most of this game. There was one little spurt like just before halftime where the Lakers cut it to like less than 5, but Rockets rallied back. They had a strong close to the half and just never really looked back after that point. So coming up, do want to talk about the debut for one Dorian Finney-Smith, as well as the contributions for Reed Sheppard off the bench, and a bit of a quiet, turnover-riddled night for Alperen Sengun. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building, the energy, the crowd, that first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browsing the Game Time app is straightforward and intuitive. Finding tickets takes just a few steps. Prices include fees up front, so the total is clear from the start. Whether it's an NBA game or another live event, everything is right there in one place. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Okay, let's get into Dorian Finney-Smith, his Rockets debut, the much anticipated debut of one DFS for this Rockets team. And frankly, it was a quiet debut. He kind of had the Tony Snell stat line, right? Only took one shot. It was a three-pointer, missed it. He had one foul, and then straight zeros across the board. And look, here's the thing. Is DFS only played 13 minutes, right? It's going to be a slow ramp up process for DFS. But I do think there were a few things like that I clocked watching him out there. Just very small things that aren't going to show up in the stat sheet, right? His aggressiveness on switches, his ability to be in the right spots defensively. There were a couple possessions where like he was the low man having to like rotate and be in the right spot, putting a body on a big, down low, trying to box out. Little things like that, just little things that a veteran like DFS understands how and why to do, following, making the right read when you're closing out on an opposing player, just little things like that that didn't show up in the stat sheet, but are just smart, high IQ defensive things that, if you were just go back and just watch the tape on DFS. I thought his minutes were solid. Right, even though you don't have anything to write home about, he didn't hit a shot, he didn't, get a steal for a breakaway dunk or anything crazy like that. It was still great to watch DFS actually just be out there and get his feet wet a little bit, because he is going to be an important depth piece for this Rockets team. And once he's fully up to game speed, maybe Ime Udoka eventually goes with DFS in the starting lineup. Certainly wouldn't be against that idea. He's a vet, he understands, he is a guy that knows what it's going to take to win, and I think having sometimes, out there, 3 or 4 young guys alongside Kevin Durant, this Rockets team plays like a young team sometimes. So having another vet to kind of stabilize some things out there is going to be really beneficial for this squad and for Ime Udoka. And we know that DFS is he's a communicator. He talks a ton on defense. He talked about that at Media Day, that he does not shut up when he's playing defense, and that him and twin Ime Thompson are going to be arguing about, who gets to take the toughest defensive assignment and all that stuff. So having lineups where you can actually throw out all of DFS and Tari Eason and Ime Thompson and have Kevin Durant and Jabari out there, like you're going to have some really fun, versatile, switch everything kind of lineups. So not a fantastic debut, nothing to really write home about, but just great to see DFS, knocking off some of the rust and just steadily build back up to game speed over time. So it'll probably be really slow going at first, like 10, 15 minutes here or there per game until he's like back into the full swing of things. But it's just great to see him put on that Rockets red and actually be out there for the squad. Alperen Sengun, kind of a quieter night in this one. Really effective on the boards though. 14 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, one steal, I apologize. Did have 6 turnovers. And this is where for Alp, the turnovers, sometimes he has those turnovers where he starts to make a move and I don't want to say that he's telegraphing what move he's going to make, and part of this comes down to the Rockets spacing. And sometimes there's just, they'll elect to start LP with a post up touch, and there's a defender like 3 feet away from him, like a second defender. Right. And it's like, that's not maybe the best spot to start in. And so I do think some of this comes down to I'd like the Rockets to try and find just better ways to get LP the ball in the post, because so much of his offense feels like he has to start with the ball in his hands beyond the 3-point line and driving and breaking down an opposing big man. It's like, no, you should be able to get opportunities for LP down low, run some wedge action, and get him a decent post up and clear out to where there's no defenders anywhere near him. So part of it is, sometimes personnel, the spacing issues. Some of it's, though, LP's recognition, right? He needs to be able to recognize when the double team is coming, where that help defender is going to be coming in from, and where his next pass needs to be. And the Rockets have been really bad about this with LP and KD out there. Is the offense gets really stagnant at times. Guys are just standing around watching, and there's not really any cutting or off-ball movement happening. And we know we have a plenty of historical precedent to show that when you cut, if Alperen Sengun has the ball, if you give him a passing window, he will probably find you. I do think that this was just the Lakers defense was just being really aggressive with, sending two to him whenever he would start to make his moves on some of his drives or post ups. And that's just something he needs to clean up and be a little bit better at. But I really did like how intentional and aggressive he felt like on the boards with his screening, trying to open up some of his teammates. I feel like there have been some times where in recent memory where his screening has been a little more Christian Wood-esque than we would probably like to see it, where he's slipping a lot of these screens and just being ready for that catch on the short roll, as opposed to, screening like Steven Adams screens, where Steven Adams walks up and sets those brick wall screens to really create an advantage for the ball handler. And so for LP, doing those little things, right? Doing some of the dirty work that he's got to be able to do as a big man. That's one of the things that makes Nikola Jokic so insanely hard to guard, is because not only is he so incredibly talented with the ball in his hands, but he's also really great without the basketball in his hands, right? He's great at setting screens for his teammates. He's great at opening guys up. He's great at being that kind of gravitational piece that the entire defense has to be worried about. And so for Alperen Sengun, it was a kind of a quieter night for him. Again, just 14, 12, and 4, which for a lot of other bigs, that'd be an incredible game. It just kind of goes to show you how almost numb we are to the usual stat lines that Sengun puts up. But I do feel like when the Rockets are at their best is when Alperen Sengun is being utilized as a passing hub, right? We've talked about this a lot, the shin hub offense, but the Rockets aren't really at their best when LP's out there getting 25, 30 plus points a night. There's still going to be some games where he's going to play like a monster and he's going to have those big nights and it'll look great. It'll be awesome. But when you have everybody, when you have multiple guys scoring in double figures, when you have Alperen Sengun with those games where he gets, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus assists, pardon me, those are when it feels like the Rockets are at their most lethal. And even though this wasn't one of those games in particular, because Alpi only had the 4 assists, again, he had 6 turnovers, though. So there were opportunities there either for himself to score the ball or to create opportunities for his teammates that wound up becoming turnovers, unfortunately. It feels like that's when the Rockets are at their best. When we saw them kind of playing, that 2-man game between Kevin Durant getting the double on the perimeter and then getting the pass to the short roll for Alperen Sengun, and then he hits Ime Thompson on the roll. Like, those moments are important to practice and build upon. But just chalk it up to not necessarily an off night for Alperen Sengun, but just a quieter night. And because KD had it going, because Ime Thompson had it going, because Jabari had it going offensively, you didn't really need a big game from Alperen Sengun, right? You had enough scoring output from everybody else, and it actually allowed Alperen Sengun to just focus on some of the other things that sometimes maybe he loses sight of when he's focused too much on the offensive side of things, right? He got to focus on his rebound. He got to focus on being a presence down low. He got to focus on his screening, those other little parts of his game that are still very important, but that sometimes I guess get forgotten about a little bit when he's doing all the other stuff that he's capable of doing. Reed Sheppard, 13 points on 5 of 10 shooting off the Rockets bench, only in 19 minutes too. And this was not a game where Reed was bombing from 3. He was only 1 of 4 from downtown, but he was 4 of 6 inside the arc. And this was a really encouraging performance from Reed, just watching him kind of snaking pick and rolls, navigating, getting to that mid-range game. He had one play where he relocated like multiple times off of like a Steven Adams little screen on the perimeter. And it was like they were just dancing for like a second before Reed finally got some space and was able to knock down his one and only 3-pointer. And seeing that 2-man game between Reed and Steve-O on the perimeter, right? It's really tough for a defender to have to fight over multiple screens from Steven Adams. So it was bound to lead to a wide open shot for Reed Sheppard. So liked the minutes that we got, that we saw out of him. Honestly, the Rockets need that scoring pop from him coming off the bench, especially if Tari Eason is going to permanently be in the starting lineup. That's where it puts a lot of pressure on a Reed Sheppard to be that scoring piece for the Rockets off their bench. And so far he has been, right? He's been really good for most games coming off the Rockets bench and providing a little bit of that scoring spark. But it's going to be up to Ime Udoka to figure out, okay, he's got this 5-man unit as a starting 5 with Tari Eason inserted, right? How does he then juggle his substitutions and his lineups to where he doesn't just have like a bench unit that is unable to score the ball, right? And I think some of that can come from like finding ways to get Jabari Smith Jr. some more touches with some of those second unit bench groups, right? Because Jabari Smith Jr., Kevin Durant, you can run some similar sets for them. You can run some similar actions for them. You can get Jabari on a post up and a mismatch. But if you have Durant on the floor, if you have Sengun on the floor, if you have Ime Thompson on the floor, maybe it feels like a mistake to be funneling offense through Jabari, right? But if you're playing him in some of those second unit groups, maybe you get an early substitution for Jabari, that kind of thing, then he gets a few more opportunities to touch the ball, shoot the ball, that kind of stuff, without taking away those reps from the Rockets' big guns, so to speak, in KD, Sengun, and Ime Thompson. But overall, quality win for the Rockets against a quality opponent, a much-needed bounce-back performance from this squad. Hopefully they can follow it up with another win against the Cavaliers Saturday night. I want your thoughts from this Christmas Day game in the YouTube comments. Let me know how you felt about this win. Let me know how you feel about the defense, about Tari Eason in the starting lineup, about Sengun's turnovers, all that stuff. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.